In this video, we will be discussing several different vocabulary words related to arcs of a circle. So to start, we're going to talk about the definition of an arc. An arc consists of 2 points on a circle, and all the points on the circle needed to connect the points in a single path. So an example of an arc would be, if I have these 2 points on the circle, let's just say I call it A, and then point B, and then all of the points between those point A and B, so I'm going to highlight it in green. That would be an example of an arc of a circle. Now the notation for arcs, typically we use 2 letters, and then we put the arc symbol above that. So that's how we would label that arc, AB. Our next new vocabulary word is called a central angle. A central angle is an angle whose vertex is on the center of a circle. So let's just say the center point is point O. One example of a central angle would look something like this. So this would be an example of central angle AOB or BOA. So just remember, a central angle has its vertex on the center point of the circle. Now there are some different types of arcs that we're going to talk about. A minor arc versus a major arc. So a minor arc is an arc whose points are on or between the sides of a central angle. So if we look at the diagram, I'm going to draw a central angle here. So again, I'm going to call this point O. And then I'm going to call this point P, point T. So my minor arc would be this green arc that I have highlighted in here. And typically when we're naming a minor arc, like I said before, we use 2 points to label it. So I would call that arc PT. That is the minor arc. And I'm going to highlight that in green just so we remember. Now a major arc is an arc whose points are on or outside of the central angle. And typically, in order to signify this, we use 3 points to label it. So let's just say I have this point Q here. Then the major arc would be this entire arc I'm highlighting in blue here. So notice it's outside of that central angle. So it's outside. And we're going to label this as arc P, Q, T. So sometimes when we're referring to a major arc, we'll use 3 letters to signify it rather than just 2, because if I call it arc PT, normally when we're given 2 letters, we always assume the minor arc. So I'm just going to make a note up here. Always assume the minor arc. So if it gives you 2 letters, you always assume the minor arc. So when we're talking about major arcs, usually we use that 3rd letter, and you always have to go in the order of the letters. So you would go from point P to point Q and then point T, and that's how we know that that's a major arc. So I'm going to highlight that in blue so we remember that's our major arc. Now hopefully most of you know what a semicircle is. A semicircle is an arc whose endpoints are on a diameter. So let's say I were to extend this to form a diameter, and then I have point R. So an example then of our semicircle, we would call it RT, arc RT, or arc TR. It doesn't matter, but notice that the endpoints of that arc are on the diameter of that circle. So minor arcs and a semicircle, and a shorthand way of thinking about it would be half of a circle. So when we get into talking about how to measure an arc, we know that half of a circle would be equal to 180 degrees. So typically a minor arc is always going to be less than 180 degrees. A major arc will always be more than 180 degrees. So go ahead and move on to the next page to see some different vocabulary words related to arcs of a circle.